19 Black R and B legends who died mysteriously and tragically. What if the greatest voices in history were silenced, not by fate, but by a cold, calculated machine? Behind every gold record and sold-out stadium lies a hidden graveyard of buried secrets that the music industry has spent decades trying to hide. From mysterious plane crashes to accidental overdoses, the tragic departures of these 19 Black R and B legends are not just coincidences, they are unanswered cries for justice from the dark side of glory. Today we are pulling back the curtain to expose the truth that was never meant to be told. Welcome to Melanin Spotlight, where the music finally stops and the truth begins. Subscribe right now and hit the bell. Which legend story has always felt suspicious to you? Tell us in the comments. Jesse Belvin died age 7 and 20 in 1960. Jesse Belvin, who tragically died at the young age of 27 in 1960, was widely known as the lullaby prince of R&B. With a voice as smooth as velvet and sweet as a nighttime prayer, he had the rare ability to move even the most conservative audiences to tears. But behind the microphone, Jesse was a quiet pioneer who refused to just be an entertainer. He wanted to use his immense gift to shatter the oppressive walls of segregation, a courageous choice that likely cost him his life. In February 1960, Jesse did the absolute unthinkable. He performed in front of the very first integrated concert audience in Little Rock, Arkansas, directly challenging the deeply rooted Jim Crow laws. While the mixed crowd cheered in harmony, a dark undercurrent of hatred was waiting just beyond the spotlight. Throughout the night, organizers received terrifying death threats, creating a chilling atmosphere backstage. Just hours after his historic performance, the car carrying Jesse and his wife crashed violently on a desolate road leading out of the city, erupting into flames. Both perished in the horrific wreckage. Authorities quickly brushed the incident under the rug, officially closing the case as a tragic accident due to mechanical brake failure. However, they conveniently omitted a crucial detail from the public report: a deliberately loosened front tire. The mystery only deepened when his family revealed an anonymous handwritten letter he had received shortly before the show. The chilling note warned him that if he dared to sing for a mixed crowd, he would be permanently silenced. Adding to the terrifying conspiracy, Jesse's record label abruptly refused to release his final recorded track, a beautiful ballad celebrating racial equality. The master tape completely vanished from the archives and has never been seen again. Jesse Belvin's death was not merely a mechanical failure. It was a brutal assassination of a visionary who dared to sing for a united world. Billy Stewart died age 22 in 1970. Known for his massive presence and an unmistakable rapid-fire staccato singing style, Billy Stewart was a vocal powerhouse who left audiences in absolute awe. He possessed a completely unique rhythm that made fans exclaim that nobody in the world sounded quite like him. Yet behind his infectious hits, Billy was quietly brewing a profound musical revolution. By 1970, he grew deeply exhausted by the commercial constraints of his career and boldly announced his intention to create a highly provocative self-produced album. Tentatively titled Thick Soul, the project was designed to be a raw, unfiltered protest record exposing the exploitation of Black artists and the deepest pains of a neglected community. Tragically, that ambitious album would never see the light of day. In January 1970, Billy and 3 of his band members were traveling to a rehearsal when their vehicle mysteriously plunged off a bridge and sank into an icy river. While local authorities quickly closed the case by blaming icy roads and brake failure, chilling rumors immediately began to surface. Whispers in the industry suggested that on the very morning of the crash, Billy had frantically called a stage manager claiming someone had tampered with his car the night before. adding a deeply sinister layer to the tragedy just days after his funeral. His family reportedly returned to his record store only to find the door violently kicked in. Every single manuscript for his upcoming protest album had been wiped clean from the premises. His record label conveniently denied any knowledge of the Thick Soul project. Billy Stewart did not just drown in a river. An entire chapter of musical truth was violently swept away with him, leaving behind an agonizing mystery of who truly benefited from his silence. King Curtis, der Age 37 in 1971. King Curtis possessed a saxophone that did not merely play notes. It wept, screamed, and spoke directly to the bleeding soul of an entire generation. As one of the greatest instrumentalists in the history of R&B, he lived a remarkably quiet and peaceful life, intentionally avoiding the toxic drama of the entertainment industry. This peaceful nature made his sudden, brutal murder all the more shocking to the world. On a sweltering August night in 1971, Curtis returned to his Upper West Side apartment in New York to find a menacing stranger blocking his entrance. What should have been a simple request to move escalated into unimaginable violence. Curtis was viciously stabbed in the chest, his life slipping away on the stone steps of his own home, while the assailant was arrested. And the police dismissed the horrific event as a random neighborhood dispute. A much darker narrative lurked beneath the surface. According to chilling industry lore, Curtis had just finished recording a highly controversial track titled Starlight Riot, a song allegedly protesting systemic police violence. In the week leading up to his death, he reportedly received a series of terrifying anonymous phone calls warning him that his saxophone would be permanently silenced if the song was ever released. Inside his apartment, friends claimed to have found an unsent letter where Curtis acknowledged the immense danger he was in, questioning who would play for the Children of the Dark if he chose to stay quiet. Following his murder, the controversial track was entirely pulled from production and his label inexplicably severed remaining ties to the project. King Curtis's death was a devastating blow to the music world, a haunting reminder that sometimes the most profound voices are silenced before their greatest truths can be heard. Johnny Ace died age 25 in 1954. In the early 1950s, Johnny Ace was universally adored as the undisputed prince of love songs. With a voice as sweet as honey, his romantic ballads like Pledging My Love made millions of young hearts flutter across America. However, behind the charming stage persona was a deeply exhausted and lonely soul, completely drained by grueling tour schedules and trapped within exploitative industry contracts. On Christmas Eve of 1954, at the absolute peak of his soaring fame, Johnny's life ended abruptly in a dim backstage dressing room in Houston. The official police report quickly ruled his death a tragic self-inflicted accident, claiming the 25-year-old fatally shot himself while recklessly playing a game of Russian roulette. But those who truly knew him absolutely refused to believe that convenient narrative. Bandmates fiercely maintained that Johnny utterly despised firearms and would never entertain such a lethal, foolish game. Furthermore, the fatal weapon didn't even belong to him. It allegedly belonged to his tour manager, a man with whom Johnny had engaged in a bitter financial dispute just days prior. Adding a chilling layer to the tragedy, witnesses recalled Johnny having a heated, intense argument with an unidentified stranger backstage shortly before the fatal gunshot rang out. For decades, his grieving family suspected foul play, a terrifying fear amplified when a relative supposedly received a sinister anonymous letter warning that their silence would keep the rest of the family safe. Was Johnny Ace truly the victim of a tragic backstage accident? Or was the beloved crooner permanently silenced over industry greed? His hauntingly beautiful voice was left to echo on the radio, leaving behind one of the darkest, unresolved mysteries of early R&B. Aaliyah died aged 22 in 2001. Aaliyah, globally worshipped as the Princess of R&B, possessed an angelic presence and a futuristic sound that completely redefined the landscape of modern music. At just 22 years old, she was standing on the precipice of absolute global superstardom, transitioning seamlessly from chart-topping multi-platinum albums to highly anticipated blockbuster Hollywood films. But on August 25, 2001, the entire world was brought to a devastating, heartbroken standstill. Shortly after filming the breathtakingly beautiful music video for Rock the Boat in the pristine waters of the Bahamas, Aaliyah and 8 members of her devoted entourage boarded a small Cessna plane to return to the United States. Mere moments after takeoff, the aircraft plunged violently to the earth, bursting into flames and leaving absolutely no survivors. While the crash was initially mourned as a horrific stroke of bad luck, the ensuing investigation uncovered a staggering, infuriating chain of deadly negligence. The aircraft was dangerously overloaded by hundreds of pounds, crammed with heavy camera equipment that experts say should have been left behind. But the most horrifying revelation centered entirely around the pilot. Toxicology reports later revealed that he had traces of cocaine and alcohol in his system. And shockingly, he wasn't even legally certified to fly that specific aircraft. Why was one of the music industry's most precious jewels placed in the hands of an impaired, unqualified pilot? The immense pressure of industry schedules and the reckless decision-making by those responsible for her safety ultimately sealed her fate. Aaliyah did not just perish in a tragic aviation accident. She was the victim of a catastrophic failure of protection, robbing the world of a transcendent angel who was forced to fly away long before her time. Donny Hathaway, die age 33, in 1979. Donny Hathaway possessed a voice that was nothing short of divine, a warm, mesmerizing instrument that carried the profound depths of the human soul. Yet behind the brilliance of his musical genius, Hathaway was locked in a devastating silent war with severe mental illness, battling crippling bouts of depression and paranoia. On a freezing night in January 1979, the music world was shattered when the 33-year-old icon plummeted from the 15th floor window of the luxurious Essex House Hotel in New York City. The authorities swiftly ruled the tragedy a suicide, closing the book on one of soul music's greatest treasures. However, for those closest to him, the official narrative felt completely utterly flawed. Just hours before his fatal fall, Donny had been in the studio with his beloved collaborator, Roberta Flack, joyfully working on the uplifting anthem, "You Are My Heaven." Friends insisted he was in incredibly high spirits, eagerly discussing his return to the stage. The physical evidence at the scene also raised chilling questions. The hotel's safety windows were specifically designed to prevent accidental falls, requiring immense deliberate effort to bypass. Furthermore, a hotel maid reported hearing a loud, violent bang from his room, right before the glass shattered. Rumors quickly circulated about a mysterious handwritten lyric sheet left on his desk, bearing the haunting words, "They want my voice, but not my truth." Shockingly, that piece of paper vanished without a trace before investigators could verify it. In the months leading up to his death, Donny confided in close friends that he felt he was being relentlessly stalked and sabotaged by unseen forces within the industry. Was his death the tragic culmination of an agonizing mental health battle? Or was Donny Hathaway forcefully silenced before he could truly break free? Junior Parker, die age 39 in 1971. Junior Parker was the absolute heartbeat of the blues. A master storyteller whose voice radiated the intimate, comforting warmth of a crackling winter fire. Despite possessing an undeniable world-class talent, he spent his entire career marginalized by a racially divided music industry forced to watch quietly from the shadows as mainstream white artists achieved massive fame and fortune by covering his original songs. In 1971, after suffering from persistent headaches, the 39-year-old artist was admitted to the hospital for what doctors explicitly promised was a simple routine procedure to relieve intracranial pressure. He walked into the facility completely lucid and optimistic, but he would never walk out. Tragically, just days after the supposedly minor surgery, Junior Parker was pronounced dead. The hospital hastily issued a vague statement citing post-operative complications, but the deeply suspicious circumstances surrounding his final hours left his family and fans reeling. For the first critical 48 hours following the operation, doctors aggressively barred his loved ones from entering his room. A chilling whisper soon emerged from an anonymous hospital nurse who claimed she witnessed a senior surgeon furiously screaming at the medical team for setting up the wrong surgical equipment during the procedure. Despite the family's desperate pleas, the hospital flatly refused an independent medical review, burying the truth behind impenetrable institutional walls. Adding absolute insult to his fatal injury the moment Junior passed away, his unreleased catalog was swiftly raided and his music was aggressively repackaged and sold by rival artists. Junior Parker did not just succumb to an illness. He perished in a system that refused to protect him, leaving behind a haunting legacy and an agonizing suspicion of medical negligence that was never brought to justice. James Carr, die age 58, in 2001. James Carr, who passed away at the age of 58 in 2001, possessed what many critics called the most agonizingly beautiful voice in the entire history of soul music. When he poured his heart into the timeless classic, The Dark End of the Street, audiences were completely paralyzed by the sheer weight of his emotion. Yet the deep sorrow in his voice was not an act. It was the painful echo of a man trapped in the terrifying darkness of severe schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Throughout his career, James was aggressively misunderstood by an industry that only cared about his vocal cords, leaving him to battle his crippling mental health crises in total isolation. His tragic death was officially recorded as heart failure. But the chilling rumors surrounding his final days paint a much more sinister picture of exploitation. According to haunting industry whispers in the weeks leading up to his death, James became highly paranoid, desperately claiming that unseen forces were breaking into his room. While his family initially dismissed this as a tragic symptom of his illness, physical evidence suddenly vanished, including a mini recorder containing his private unreleased vocal tracks. Even more terrifying were the rumors that his daily medication had been secretly altered, with his lithium levels allegedly spiking to 3 times the normal dosage. On a cold January morning, the 58-year-old legend was found unresponsive in his bed. The absolute most shocking twist occurred just days after his funeral, when a mysterious agent suddenly appeared at his family's door, aggressively demanding full control over his unreleased catalog. James Carr did not just succumb to a failing heart. He died as a profoundly lonely genius in a ruthless world that eagerly waited for him to fall so they could harvest his remaining art. Jackie Wilson, die age 49 in 1984. Jackie Wilson, who tragically died at the age of 49 in 1984, was the undisputed embodiment of pure stage electricity. Universally revered as Mr. Excitement, he possessed a dynamic, explosive energy that drove packed arenas to absolute madness. But behind the dazzling footwork and the million-dollar smile was a man completely suffocated by an exploitative music empire. Despite generating massive fortunes, Jackie was trapped in abusive contracts extorted by his management and pushed to the absolute brink of human exhaustion. The ultimate horrifying climax of his career occurred on a September night in 1975. While passionately belting out the lyrics to his smash hit Lonely Teardrops, the legendary performer suffered a massive heart attack and violently collapsed directly on the stage. While the press immediately reported it as a standard medical emergency, dark and persistent rumors immediately flooded the R&B community. A sound technician famously claimed that just moments before walking on stage, Jackie had complained about a strange bittersweet taste in his drinking water, a glass that mysteriously disappeared and was never tested. Furthermore, medical insiders later whispered that Jackie could have fully recovered if he had been immediately placed on a ventilator. But there was a deeply suspicious, unexplained delay in his emergency care. Following the collapse, the vibrant icon was reduced to a vegetative state where he tragically languished for 9 agonizing years. Even more sickening, his medical records were allegedly locked away by corporate lawyers, and the industry that had ruthlessly profited off his sweat completely abandoned him to rot in a rundown, underfunded nursing home. Jackie Wilson's death was the ultimate betrayal. A man who gave the world every ounce of his burning energy was left to die in cold, absolute silence. Zulema Cusseau, die age 66, in 2013. Zulema Cusseau, who passed away quietly at the age of 66 in 2013, possessed an absolutely towering voice that helped define the golden clouds of 1970s R&B. As the powerhouse lead vocalist of Faith, Hope, and Charity, and later a brilliant solo artist, she had the raw talent to rival the greatest divas of her generation. Yet instead of receiving the lifetime of accolades she so deeply deserved, she was systematically sidelined and eventually swallowed by the ruthless shadows of the music industry. In her final years, Zulema lived a highly reclusive life in Florida, completely isolated from the glittering stages she once commanded. But her quiet passing brought a wave of deeply unsettling questions rather than peace. According to close associates, Zulema had spent her final months secretly working on a magnificent comeback project, pouring her last remaining energy into a series of highly guarded vocal tracks. However, mere hours after her death was discovered, every single one of those final recordings allegedly vanished from her personal computer without a trace. Adding to the chilling mystery, friends whispered about a missing handwritten manifesto, a letter Zulema had supposedly drafted to finally expose the record executives who had ruthlessly suppressed her career and stolen her royalties decades earlier. Neither the precious music files nor the explosive letter were ever recovered by her family. Zulema Cusseau did not merely die of natural causes. She passed away completely, invisibly, in a deeply unforgiving system. Her death remains a haunting testament to how easily the industry can completely erase a magnificent black artist, ensuring that their final, desperate truths are buried right alongside them. Minnie Riperton, die age 31, in 1979. Minnie Riperton, who died at the heartbreakingly young age of 31 in 1979, was universally worshipped as the undisputed goddess of the octave. Possessing a breathtaking angelic whistle register, her timeless anthem, "Lovin' You," became a permanent hymn of tender affection from millions around the globe. Yet behind her radiant flower-adorned image, a terrifying tragedy was quietly unfolding. At the absolute peak of her soaring career, the young mother of 2 was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. While the official history books frame her passing solely as a tragic medical battle dark industry, whispers suggest a much more sinister dynamic of corporate exploitation. According to these chilling rumors, instead of being immediately urged to seek aggressive life-saving medical treatments, Minnie was allegedly placed under immense suffocating pressure by her record label to completely hide her illness from the public. Terrified that a dying star would critically damage album sales and shatter her pristine, joyful image, executives reportedly pushed her to delay vital chemotherapy in order to fulfill grueling, exhausting tour obligations. As her physical health rapidly deteriorated, she spent her final days agonizing in the recording studio, desperately trying to immortalize her fading voice. A studio technician later recounted a haunting conversation where Minnie confessed her ultimate fear wasn't dying, but being completely forgotten as if she never existed, adding a final cruel twist to her tragedy. A highly emotional recording she created specifically to say goodbye to her fans was reportedly locked away in the corporate vaults and has never been released. Minnie Riperton's death is a devastating, bitter lesson in the cruel reality of show business, an unforgiving machine where a Black woman's angelic voice was deemed far more valuable than her own life. David Ruffin died age 50 in 1991. David Ruffin, who tragically died at the age of 50 in 1991, was the agonizingly beautiful, raspy soul behind the Temptations' greatest hits. With his signature thick-rimmed glasses and explosive stage presence, he sang timeless classics like My Girl into the permanent fabric of American history. However, beneath the immaculate Motown choreography, Ruffin was a fiercely rebellious spirit battling severe addiction, leading to his eventual bitter dismissal from the group. While his official cause of death was ruled a tragic accidental drug overdose, the horrifying circumstances surrounding his final hours point to a much more sinister and deeply disturbing mystery. In a scene that felt like a cruel horror movie, the global icon was unceremoniously dumped in front of a Philadelphia hospital in the dead of night. He was completely stripped of his identification, his wallet was emptied, and he was left utterly unrecognized by the medical staff. The timeline leading up to this grim discovery is filled with terrifying red flags. Just hours before his fatal collapse, Ruffin reportedly attended a private gathering populated by powerful music industry figures. According to witnesses, the visibly agitated singer ominously declared that he possessed explosive hidden information that would completely shake the establishment. When his family later examined his body, they found chilling physical anomalies completely ignored by the police. A suspicious bruise on his neck and broken fingernails indicating a desperate, violent struggle. To make matters even darker, an intimate personal diary he had kept for years, rumored to contain damning industry secrets, completely vanished from his belonging. David Ruffin did not simply succumb to his demons. His horrifying end remains an enduring mystery, leaving fans to forever wonder if the legendary voice was forcefully silenced to protect the dark secrets of the musical elite. Florence Ballard, aged 22 in 1976. Florence Ballard, who died at the heartbreakingly young age of 32 in 1976, was the undeniable founding heartbeat of Motown's greatest girl group, the Supremes. Despite being the original lead singer who helped build a multi-million-dollar empire from the ground up, she was ruthlessly forced out of the group, stripped of her contracts, and viciously discarded by the very executives who profited immensely from her raw talent. Her rapid, devastating descent from global royalty into severe depression, alcoholism, and absolute poverty is one of the music industry's most shameful tragedies. In the weeks leading up to her sudden death from coronary thrombosis, the former superstar was humiliatingly forced to apply for social welfare just to feed her 3 young children. However, a deeply suspicious and terrifying narrative surrounds her final days on Earth. Refusing to remain a silent victim, Florence was reportedly finding her power again by writing a tell-all memoir. She was absolutely determined to expose the crushing manipulation, financial theft, and emotional abuse she suffered behind Motown's glittering doors. A day before she tragically collapsed in her bathroom, her family claimed her apartment had been mysteriously broken into by unknown intruders. Even more chilling, the exact moment the ambulance arrived to take her dying body to the hospital. Her highly guarded handwritten manuscript completely vanished from her drawer. It has never been seen again. The police conducted no formal investigation into the missing documents. Florence Ballard did not merely die of a failing heart. She died from a broken one, suffocated by an industry that completely isolated her. her untimely. Highly suspicious death remains a devastating reminder of how ruthlessly the showbiz machine will erase its fallen queens to protect its lucrative golden image. Tammy Terrell, die Age 24 in 1970. Tammy Terrell, who died at the devastatingly young age of 24 in 1970, was the radiant shining light of Motown. Her immortal duets with Marvin Gaye, including the timeless "Ain't No Mountain High Enough," served as sweet promises of love to a generation navigating intense social turmoil. Yet behind her bright, captivating smile, Tammy was trapped in a horrifying nightmare. While the official medical records state she succumbed to an aggressive brain tumor, persistent dark whispers within the R&B community tell a much more sinister story of hidden abuse. According to industry insiders, Tammy was trapped in a violently abusive relationship with an ex-boyfriend, frequently arriving at recording sessions covered in terrifying bruises. Some medical professionals allegedly speculated that severe head trauma from these brutal beatings may have catastrophically accelerated the progression of her fatal illness. The absolute breaking point occurred during a now legendary concert, where the ailing star tragically collapsed directly into the arms of Marvin Gaye under the glaring stage lights. She would never wake up again. However, the mystery surrounding her death did not end with her final breath. Intimate personal diaries reportedly documenting her intense emotional suffering and the crushing pressure exerted by her management mysteriously vanished and were never published. The loss completely shattered Marvin Gaye, plunging him into a profound, lifelong depression. He famously declared his belief that she was effectively murdered by a ruthless system that forced her to live a painful lie, a chilling quote that was subsequently scrubbed from many official biographies. Tammy Terrell did not just die from an illness. She perished as a tragic angel whose true suffering was deliberately swept under the rug to protect the illusion of false glory. Sam Cooke, die Age 33 in 1964. Sam Cooke, who was fatally shot at the age of 33 in 1964, was undeniably the ultimate king of soul. His monumental anthem, "A Change Is Gonna Come," transcended music to become the defining manifesto for the entire American civil rights movement. But Sam was far more than just a transcendent vocalist. He was a fierce, visionary businessman. As one of the very first black artists to aggressively secure independent control over his own master recordings, publishing rights, and finances, he became a terrifying threat to the deeply entrenched white-dominated music establishment. On a cold December night, the trailblazing icon was gunned down in a seedy Los Angeles motel. The police hastily ruled it a justifiable homicide, claiming he aggressively attacked the motel manager, forcing her to shoot in self-defense. However, the chilling physical evidence and glaring inconsistencies at the bloody crime scene tell a vastly different, deeply disturbing story. The unidentified woman Sam had allegedly brought to the motel completely vanished into the night, taking his wallet and clothing with her. Crime scene photographs revealed a horrifying reality that completely contradicted the official narrative. Sam's body was severely bruised, and his arms were deeply scratched, indicating a desperate, violent struggle before the fatal bullets were ever fired. Despite his family's agonizing pleas, the authorities completely refused to launch a thorough investigation or track down the missing woman. Even more terrifying, close associates whispered that Sam was actively preparing to publish explosive documents, exposing the systemic manipulation and racial exploitation within the music empire. Sam Cooke was not merely the victim of a random motel altercation. His deeply suspicious assassination remains one of America's darkest unhealed wounds, permanently silencing a revolutionary who dared to demand absolute freedom. Otis Redding, die Age 26 in 1967. Otis Redding, who perished at the devastatingly young age of 26 in 1967, possessed a monumental gravelly voice that served as the beating heart of of the American South. He was an absolute titan of soul music, pouring unimaginable love, blistering pain, and desperate hope into every single ballad he touched. Standing on the absolute precipice of becoming the greatest global artist of his generation, Otis was secretly navigating a terrifying labyrinth of fierce power struggles, vicious racism, and a crushing feeling of being swallowed whole by the white-dominated music establishment. In December 1967, the world was completely shattered when his private plane mysteriously plummeted into the icy depths of Lake Monona in Wisconsin. While aviation tragedies are often written off as unavoidable acts of nature, the chilling details surrounding Otis's final flight refused to align with a simple accident. According to investigations, the weather was perfectly clear, the aircraft was meticulously maintained, and the pilot was highly experienced. Yet for entirely unexplainable reasons, an air traffic controller later admitted they inexplicably lost all communication with the plane just minutes before it went down. Adding a terrifying layer to the mystery industry, whispers claim that Otis had recently recorded a powerful, unreleased track featuring lyrics that directly hinted at a dark storm brewing within the corporate system, a song that was abruptly canceled and buried after his death. Did the colossal King of Soul simply fall victim to a catastrophic mechanical failure? Or did his fierce push for artistic and financial independence lead him to fly far too close to a forbidden zone? His voice famously fell from the sky, leaving behind an agonizing eternal question about the true cost of musical freedom. Marvin Gaye, die age 44 in 1984. Marvin Gaye, who met a horrific end at the age of 44 in 1984, was the undisputed Prince of Motown, a man whose angelic voice seamlessly intertwined pure spiritual love with fierce political rebellion. To the millions who worshipped his timeless masterpieces like What's Going On, he was a prophet of peace and healing. Yet behind the velvet vocals and the mesmerizing stage presence, Marvin was trapped in a suffocating lifelong nightmare of intense childhood trauma, crippling religious obsession, and deep psychological torment. The devastating climax of his life occurred inside his own home, where he was fatally shot in the chest by his own father. In a deeply tragic twist of fate, the weapon used to end his life was a gun Marvin himself had purchased. While law enforcement quickly closed the files as a straightforward, albeit tragic domestic homicide, the incredibly eerie events leading up to his final breath suggest a much more profound collapse. In the days preceding his murder, a deeply paranoid Marvin frantically confided in his inner circle, stating he felt an invisible force aggressively pushing him towards absolute destruction. A personal assistant later revealed that the superstar was desperately planning to flee his family home, to start over and escape the suffocating darkness. The most chilling detail of all came on the very night before the fatal gunshot. Marvin reportedly called a close friend in hysterics, sobbing uncontrollably as he delivered a terrifying prophecy stating he knew he would not live to see his 45th birthday. Marvin Gaye's death was not merely the result of a violent family dispute. It was the catastrophic, inevitable implosion of a magnificent, profoundly misunderstood soul who was entirely consumed by the very demons he spent his entire life singing away. Michael Jackson died age 50 in 2009. Michael Jackson, who passed away at the age of 50 in 2009, was far more than the king of pop. He was a global phenomenon who single-handedly shattered the racial barriers of the entertainment world. Yet as his fame reached heights no human had ever touched, his reality became a fortress of profound isolation and crushing paranoia. While the world eagerly awaited his historic This Is It comeback tour, Michael was privately living in a state of absolute terror. The official cause of death was ruled a homicide due to an overdose of propofol, a powerful anesthetic intended only for surgical suites administered by his private physician. But for those who knew the industry's dark underbelly, the tragedy felt like a calculated removal of a man who had become too big to control. The mystery surrounding his final days is filled with chilling premonitions. According to his closest assistants, Michael frequently whispered a terrifying warning: "If anything happens to me, don't trust anyone around me." He reportedly felt like a prisoner of his own catalog, trapped in a high-stakes war over his massive music publishing rights, which included the songs of the Beatles. On the morning he was found unresponsive in his Los Angeles mansion, several security cameras were mysteriously non-functional, and crucial pages from his personal diary, where he allegedly documented the names of people trying to kill him, were missing. Michael Jackson did not just succumb to a medical mistake. He died a lonely king in a gilded cage, leaving behind a legacy shadowed by the suspicion that he was worth far more to the industry dead than alive. Whitney Houston died age 48 in 2012. Whitney Houston, who died at the age of 48 in 2012, possessed a voice so crystalline and powerful, it was universally hailed as the voice. She was the golden standard for vocal perfection, yet her life was a grueling battle to maintain a manufactured image that suppressed her true self. While the public focused on her turbulent marriage and struggles with addiction, those within her inner circle saw a woman desperately trying to reclaim her soul from a system that had commodified her every breath. On the eve of the Grammy Awards, Whitney was found dead in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. The official report cited accidental drowning combined with heart disease and drug use, but the physical evidence at the scene told a much more violent story. The autopsy revealed a series of deeply suspicious details that the mainstream media largely ignored. Whitney had a mysterious bruise on her forehead and a bloody lip, suggesting a physical struggle or a fall just before she entered the water. Furthermore, the water in the tub was reportedly still scalding hot, so hot that it would have been physically impossible for a conscious person to sit in it willingly. A close friend later revealed that Whitney had been in high spirits that week, preparing for a major career relaunch and claiming she had finally found the strength to speak her truth about the industry's manipulation. Just like other legends before her, her personal belongings were allegedly rifled through before authorities arrived, and a secret notebook she kept by her bed was never recovered. Whitney Houston did not just slip away. She drowned in the blinding glare of a spotlight that refused to let her be human, leaving the world to mourn a voice that was silenced just as it was beginning to find its own power again. As the final notes of these 19 legends fade into history, we are left with a chilling question that demands an answer. Was their tragic end the inevitable price of absolute stardom? Or was the system specifically designed to break the very souls that gave it life? While the world continues to profit from their immortal voices, the real stories behind their deaths remain locked in the shadows, leaving us to wonder, can a black artist ever truly be free in an industry built on their sacrifice? We want to hear your theories. Subscribe to Melanin Spotlight and join the conversation in the comments below. Do you believe these deaths were truly accidents, or is there a much darker conspiracy at play? Let's honor their legacy together.